How's it going, everyone? It's GadgetsBoy. Welcome to another video. This is the Motorola Razr 40 Ultra. It's also known as the Razr Plus in the US, for example, and it's seen some subtle updates. For example, the front display looks much better. It takes over the whole screen, and there's less gap as well when it's folded. And I like that the crease is also improved on because there's less visibility on the crease. Let's talk about this phone. Let's talk about the camera, the design, and my experience with the Razr 40 Ultra so far. Starting with the design, it looks really nice. I mean, look at the front display. It's now a 3.6-inch POLED external display with refresh rates of up to 144 Hz, which is a whole lot of refresh rate there. The internal display, so when you open it up, we're looking at a 6.9-inch LTPO AMOLED display, and this will give you 1080 by 2640 pixels and caps out at 1400 nits peak brightness, and also have 165 Hz of refresh rate, and it supports HDR10+. The screen looks fantastic. The colors are great, especially when watching movies, playing games on this. It looks fantastic, both inside and outside as well. Even the PPI as well is very similar to what you have on the inside, so everything's very sharp and just looks really good. Like I was talking about the crease on the main screen, it's hardly noticeable, and the only time you actually see it is if you have brighter stuff on the display and if you actually focus on it. But if you're using it on and off and you're using it regularly, over time you just forget that it's there. The hinge is also updated as well, so the flex display, they call it flex view technology, is much more better as well in the terms of like you get lesser visibility in the crease. When you close it, it's much flatter, so there's no gap between the displays, which looks really good. I like that they've done that. Of course, we have a power display on the side, volume rocker. The power display also doubles up as your fingerprint sensor, so you set that up so you can log into your phone very quickly. On the back, we have Corning Gorilla Glass Victus with a nice matte finish on this particular version. They have another one which has a vegan leather on the back, which has a better grip in my opinion. And on the front, we've talked about that display, that 3.6-inch POLED display. On the other side is your SIM card slot. There's no micro SD card expansion on this, unfortunately, but you do get 512 gigabytes of internal storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM, and it's rocking the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Am I saying that right? 8 Gen Plus 1? 8 Plus Gen 1. So this should offer you rapid speeds, good performance when using it. We'll talk about that as well because gaming on this thing is actually really good. For the battery, you have 3,800 mAh battery in there, and it supports 30 watts wide charging and 5 watt wireless charging. So wireless charging is lacking here, but it is a foldable device, so it's harder to achieve that at higher speeds. But you do get 30 watts, which is still decent. It means you can charge this on turbo charge very quickly. It's more than enough, to be honest. You can plug it in for like 30 minutes and you get a really good level of battery to use day to day. When it comes to the camera, we have a dual camera setup here. So we have a 12 megapixel main camera with f1.5 aperture. It has optical image stabilization, and you can record 4K videos at either 30 or 60 frames per second. It also has a dual pixel PDAF when it comes to autofocus, which is really good. And the ultra wide angle camera is 13 megapixel, which also supports macro shots, and it's at f2.2. On the front, we have a 32 megapixel selfie shooter at f2.4. Should let enough light in, so it should be really good as well. When it comes to the sound system, we have a dual speaker system, so stereo speaker, which also supports Dolby Atmos. So sound quality is actually really good on here. So when playing games or watching movies, there's no issues when it comes to the sound. So it's all well and good stating all the specs and they sound fantastic on paper, but what does that actually feel or look like in the real world? Well, it works really well. This is very fluid, very smooth. So just going through the menu and opening apps and stuff like that works really well. You can see that the Snapdragon processor is doing a really good job, as well as the RAM in there allowing you to open multiple applications at the same time with no issues. In fact, you can even open up split screen stuff you can do on here. So if I open Twitter here, I can split this top, and then at the bottom, I can have Instagram open right at the bottom of the app, and they both work really well. Look, it's just nice and fluid. I know Twitter's not logged in on this, but it just works really well, and that's evident to the fact that this is actually geared towards performance. So it performs really well. In terms of the display, I love the display quality. The colors are sharp. With the AMOLED display, the blacks are really good as well, the contrast level, and it has a really good brightness level as well. So when using this outside in bright sunlight situation, it just pops and works really well. The flip mode, you can flip it easily, and it works with one hand as well. So I tend to just either open it like so. Well, that was two hands. You can either open it like so, nice and soft and gentle, or I do this thing where I just like open it like so. And people say, why'd you open it so aggressively? But well, the case is they've improved the hinge so you can open it and close it as many times as possible without having to worry about that actually damaging. One thing I did worry about though is that front display, now that it's covering the whole front of it in the first half of the display, does that make it harder to look after in terms of if you damage it? Does that mean it's going to cost more to repair? That I don't know, but that's my only concern with having so much glass around this particular device itself. There's a screen protector pre-installed on the front, so that way that's going to have a better longevity to do with this. In terms of user experience, Motorola has some features that they've added on here. For example, the gestures, which I really like. You got some personalization, so you can have, you know, scrolling wallpaper, for example. The gestures are pretty cool. So if I close this, for example, I can just quickly just flip the screen, and I can use that to open the camera and start recording stuff. I can even set that to open things like your torch as well. So if you live in somewhere where you need to go up the stairs at night time or whatever, you can easily just flick your wrist and that will open that. So you got those extra little features here and there that you can do. If we go inside settings, we can see what options we have available as well. There's loads of different options here, but the ones that I normally check for is if we go into display settings, we have things like adaptive brightness. We can go all the way down to flicker prevention, which is good as well, especially when I'm recording screens and stuff like that. Looks really well. But what matters most is that display refresh rate. So we get that high refresh rate, which can go up to 165 Hertz refresh. And because this is LTPO, it can drop all the way down to 1 Hertz to allow for battery saving. So when it doesn't need to go all the way up and cranked up high, you don't need to have that at all. We can go on our peak display, which is the front display. You can allow for different things to happen on there. You got those gestures as well, so 3-finger screenshots that you can use, swipe to split screen as well, so you can have 2 things showing at the same time. So you can have all those things there. You can even tweak the color as well, so you can have it saturated or have it natural. If you're going to be editing photos on here in Lightroom and stuff like that, you want to have it natural so that the colors will look as accurate as they can be when you're editing your photos. In sound settings, there's also something pretty cool in there as well. So you got Dolby Atmos, obviously, so you can tap that and tweak the settings. So this is currently loading, for example. Click next, 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 come out this, done. And then you can change different things on your Dolby Atmos settings. So you can have smart audio, put into film, music mode, podcast mode. But if you have it just by default in smart audio, it means it will tweak and adjust accordingly to whatever you're listening to. But spatial audio is what's pretty cool here. So this actually supports Motorola's own spatial audio system. So put that on to get better sort of sound experience, immersive sound experience when you're watching videos, playing games, or all that kind of stuff. So that's in settings, which you have to switch on. It's not on by default. Then you have your gestures, which I talked about. So you have loads of different gestures available. So through your boots, you can literally press anything to do different things that you want it to do. But that's pretty much it in terms of the system itself. But I love the user interface. It's very clean. There's hardly any bloatware on there apart from all the Google apps that you normally get on here. So really good. Let's talk about that front display though. So once you close it, you have this display here which shows you your time at the moment. That's what I've got it set on to, which is always on display or peak display. And then we can swipe up to see different things. So this is like quick menu settings. I can swipe across to see some of my applications. I can also edit some of these apps as well to include some that I want on there. So by typing settings on there, I can select different apps that I want displayed on that main display, or I can just remove some of them as well. Swipe across, you got your dial pad for contacts, calendar, and search, and so on. So you can do all kind of different things. You also add this, you got weather option on there, different widgets you can add on there. Not all apps are available on the front display, but most of the Google apps and gaming and stuff like that are available, like Call of Duty is available on there, so you can actually play Call of Duty on that small display on the front. I don't know why you would do that, but it is actually usable. You can watch YouTube on that front display as well, which is pretty cool. You got sharp display, it's very bright, so at the end of the day, you'll be able to watch your videos nice and comfortably well, like so. Look at that. Obviously, my only qualms with this is the fact that the camera takes a bit of a space there for the front display, so you don't actually take advantage of the full display, unfortunately, because the 2 camera take up space up there. I think they could have actually done away with that front-facing camera because of that flex view technology, you can actually have it in some sort of like tripod mode. It supports different mode on there, so you can have it as a tripod sort of scenario, or you can have a split screen, so you can do something at the bottom, something else at the top there, which is pretty neat. I like what they've done there. But if you have it in camera, like so it splits the screen, so you got camera at the top and your functionalities at the bottom off. But what you can also do is there's a button here you can press that allows you to see the front, what you're shooting on the front there, so you can see Tom there waving away. So you can actually see yourself and take photos and use it as some sort of like tripod, or if you're watching cooking shows and stuff like that, you can also use that sort of format to do so. This is very versatile. I think they've done really well with this. I think the screen looks amazing. Screen quality looks good. The camera quality is the next thing that we'll talk about. But in terms of design and usability and functionality, I think it works really well. Durability, I can't really talk about because I'm gonna have to use this for a longer period of time. But if I'm to base this on the previous Razer, I think this will last you a very long time. So it can almost slot itself in that flagship flip phone bracket. So if you're looking for a flagship flip phone, this would be a really good one to go for. Let's talk about camera though. So in camera settings, we can see the menu there, the user interface. Very straightforward, again, very easy to use. We have our macro mode, we have a ultra wide mode, and one time, so this normal main camera. At the bottom, you can scroll across for like slow motion. You got video, so you can do up to 120 frames per second. So you got video, photo, portrait mode. You also have pro mode, which then allows you to save photos in raw mode, which allows more editing to go on. And then you got more, which allows you to do dual capture. So if you want to capture with the front and back, you can also do that. And there you got photo booth and fun stuff that you can do with the camera. In terms of photo quality, actually before I do that, let's go to video and see what we can shoot. So we got 4K, full HD on there. Go into settings. You got external display settings, AI settings, video. If you go to video there, you can see efficiency mode and so on. So again, there's loads of things you can do in the settings to make sure you get the best shots possible. Photo quality though, this is where I've got issues with this. So the photos look great depending on which screen you're looking at the photos on. So if you're looking at the photos on the phone itself, they look great. You think you've captured the best photo possible. But when you move it onto the computer screen and you start, pixel peeking and looking at the photos that you've taken, you start noticing all the over sharpening that's going on with the computer processing your photos. And that was really annoying because they look good from the naked eye in terms of like just looking at them from afar. But when you start zooming in, even when you shoot high res in RAW or whatever, it still gives you that sort of over sharpening, which is very odd. Talking about the videos, they look great again. It's got stabilization, and the difference is very clear. So if you put stabilization on, it's very stable, it's very nice. I like it. I've got no issues with that. But when you take stabilization off, then it's absolute pants. So you need to have your stabilization on at all times, I would advise. Low light situation, not the best. You do get night mode. There's a lot of over sharpening again, so the detail is starting to go missing when it comes to that in total. So I think overall on this, the camera could be better. It needs some work in terms of the computational processing on here. So it needs to look better than what they've got on here so far. So maybe also improve actually that doesn't really matter if it's 12 megapixel or not, but the quality that you're getting out of it could be better. So that's where you start questioning it, when you compare it to the Samsung Flip 4, for example. That looks better. But the functions on there, like you can shoot 4K 60, that's there for you. Stabilization's good, but if you take all that aside, the camera could be better. But let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'll leave all the samples on screen so you can actually look at yourself. And maybe I'll upload them to Flickr or something so you can actually look at the photos directly, download them, pixel peek, and see what you think in the comments below. But overall, really good. All-day battery life as well. The battery, even though it's not the biggest battery of all, the battery lasts a decent amount of time. It lasts me all day, depending on what I'm doing. And the camera could be better. Selfie is good as well. Portrait mode is good. It's not too bad. Battery life, good. Fast charge as well, 30 watts fast charge. So I think overall it's a good package in a device, and I'll leave all pricing and all that stuff in the description area so you guys can check it out. But that's pretty much it for the Motorola Razr 40 Ultra. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any questions, drop them there as well. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.